Will a collision of new technologies really spur the next tech revolution? I'm Tonya Hall, and joining me from his Tesla is Robert Scoble, author, speaker, and founder of Scobleizer. Welcome back, Robert.
Hey, thanks for having me on the show.
Of course, give our audience, if you will, a brief summary of your journey through the technology world.
Well, oh God, brief. I'll try to keep it brief. I was a journalism student and I got into a computer programming magazine, which got me into blogging in about 2000, which got me early into social media and working at Microsoft, which got me into weird stuff all over the world, which got me the first ride in the first Tesla. Elon gave me a ride before he gave his best friend a ride. Flipboard was launched in my, I was one of the first people to see Flipboard as one of the first 80 people on Instagram. Siri was launched in my son's bedroom, and on and on. And so I've had a front row seat on the world of technology for quite a while, and honored to be here speaking to you from my Tesla.
I know, from your Tesla, no doubt.
From my Tesla.
It is always an honor to have you, Robert, as a guest. You certainly do have quite an array of background, and it's been a wild ride so far. Your latest book, you're an established author already. This is your fourth book, I believe. Your latest book, The Infinite Retina, Spatial Computing, Augmented Reality, and how a collision of new technologies are bringing about the next technology revolution.
Yep.
It's available now, but what chain of events motivated you to co-author the book?
Well, Irene and I just have been in the VR AR space for a long time. I first saw AR when I visited a small company in Munich called Metaio, and they showed me monsters on the sides of skyscrapers back almost 10 years ago now. And that got me, this is my second book about spatial computing or augmented reality. And we just started seeing that there was all sorts of things that were shifting. And we think that in the next decade, 7 industries are going to radically change because of this new technology. It's not just augmented reality anymore either. It's any computing that human, virtual being, which we could spend a whole show on talking about virtual beings, or robots like this car can drive through or move through. And so augmented reality is the purest form of this because we're going to soon be wearing glasses and we move through the computing and interact with computing literally on buildings or on surfaces or around us, right? So it's a crazy world that's soon to come. Apple's announcing new iPhone next week with a 3D sensor in it, and they're going to give you a little taste of what that world is going to bring us.
It is an exciting time. As crazy as 2020 has been, there's still a lot of really cool things that are happening. I want to get into something you said earlier, just a second ago. I see the book as a prediction of how the near to maybe mid-future might unfold based on a set of assumptions.
Yeah.
What assumptions do you have about how global society, regional culture, and technology will merge and mesh beyond 2020 over the next few years?
Global, oh man, that's a big question. I mean, we're about to hit into a paradigm shift of computing, right? Computing today is done on rectangular pieces of glass. I mean, even in my car, right? Let me show you my Tesla screen. It's a rectangular piece of glass, and you touch it, and you zoom in, and you interact with the computer there. Soon, we're going to be wearing glasses that can put computing on everything and everybody, right? Your face is going to have costumes on it, or new makeup, or whatever you want, right? And we're getting tastes of this if you play on Snapchat or Facebook has augmented reality filters and stuff like that. So we're starting to see the culture shift, because if I'm in a video conference call with you and we're fooling around with augmented reality filters, and I'm a monster and you're R2D2 or something like that, right? And that's starting to shift how we think of computing and how we think of each other and how we interact with each other. When we get into glasses, we're going to be able to play with each other or work with each other in new ways, right? a couple of months ago, I was walking around a virus with a bunch of scientists, and that's sort of a weird, quite thing. But we were wearing VR headsets, and we were joining each other in this space virtually. And we were touching the virus and the chemical structures in the virus and understanding how the thing works. I learned more in an hour about how this thing works than I would learn in a week reading books, right? So that has deep implications on how we're going to work together, play together, collaborate together, build things together. And the next decade, it's not just the next decade, next few years, it's going to see a lot of change far beyond this Zoom call, right? We're all on Zoom now. The COVID got everybody in society on Zoom. And like, I literally have 4 phone calls going on, and Zoom calls going on right now in my house, right? My wife is on a Zoom call, and my kids are on Zoom calls with their teachers, right? So that's a radical change already in a few months, right? But soon we're going to be actually in 3D together, right?
Yeah. So soon it'll be virtual meetings, right?
Yeah, and that has deep implications.
VR
Is
meetings.
the conference, is the conference business ever going to really come back? People say, oh yeah, people like to meet. It's like, yeah, well, do you need to go and meet just to, you know, have a sales demo of something? Not really anymore.
So virtual reality, augmented spatial computing, it's a big, broad topic, but you guys tackled it in this book. And to your point, it's not your first one. Irene Cronin co-authored with you. How did you go about splitting up the writing task?
Yeah. we did Zoom calls every day, and we had we wrote it in Google Docs so we could write together, really, and I could write and she could write and she could edit and that. We split it up by chapters, though. Mostly I wrote most of a chapter, or I would write half of a chapter, and then she would write another, the second half. We would split it up into sections, right? And then we would go and edit each other's work so we had the same tone and stuff like that. But yeah, thanks to modern tools, you can have a Zoom call and be writing together, almost mind melding, and I could watch her writing her piece and she could watch me writing my piece, and we could, oh, I like what you said there, or I didn't like what you said there, or did you know about this, or right? And it happened together. So it was really pretty cool.
Nice collaborated effort. Um,
Yeah.
Based on the technology breakthroughs and related disruptions that you describe, what recommendations do you have for people to prepare for the next tech revolution?
I mean, it depends who I'm talking to. If I'm talking to entrepreneurs, like this morning, I was talking to a bunch of computer science students at USC. But if I'm talking to entrepreneurs, I would say understand timing, understand investor belief, and understand how that can change. For instance, the guy who started AltSpace VR, which now is owned by Microsoft and is a social VR app. In the early days, I asked him, how did you get funded when there's no customers? There's nobody who has a VR headset back when he got funded. He goes, well, funny enough, you should ask. I called 100 or something venture capitalists and gave them the pitch, and they all told me to go pound sand. There's no customers, and there's nothing here to fund. And then Mark Zuckerberg bought Oculus Rift, the Oculus company, and a couple of those investors called him back and said, "Well, we've changed our belief." Right. So if you're starting a company right now, it's fairly hard to get funded in this space because of a whole bunch of reasons. But I think that's going to change over the next 24 months as Apple gets into the market. So you have to understand market windows. You have to understand investor belief. You have to start building your relationships with investors now, even if they tell you no, because in 6 months they might call you back, like they did with AltSpace VR. If I'm talking to computer science people, like I was talking this morning, we spend a lot of time talking about the technology and opportunities and which company, should you go to Apple, should you go to Tesla, should you go to Facebook, should you start your own company, and we can have a good discussion about who you are and what kind of personality type you are, and what your dream is, and how likely you are to fund a company with the idea that you have. And we can work through that. And then if you're somebody like me, a normal person, depends. Do you want to move your career into this space? Then I would start thinking about learning Unity, for instance, which is a 3D programming environment for building. It used to be video games, but it's going to soon be everything. This car is going to run on Unity or something like Unity. So understanding how to program in 3D, understand how to manipulate 3D, how to understand how 3D works will give you a head up. Even if you're going to be a marketer in this space, having that kind of grounding will give you credibility to talk to people about, video games and entertainment and education apps and all sorts of stuff. Because if you don't understand how it works, you're going to get questions and you're going to be in over your head. And if you do understand how it works, you're going to make better decisions with your career.
Great advice. Robert Scoble, founder of Scobleizer and author of The Infinite Retina, Spatial Computing, Augmented Reality, and How a Collision of New Technologies are Bringing About the Next Tech Revolution. Robert, if somebody wants to connect with you, maybe they want some more of your great advice or just follow your crazy antics, what's the best way they can do that?
I would follow me on Twitter. I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook and a few other places as well. But Twitter is, I watch thousands and thousands of tweets every hour when I'm watching my tweet deck, and I'm retweeting the best stuff that happens in this industry. So I'd watch me on Twitter, and from there I'll link you out to where YouTube or LinkedIn. Right?
Sounds good. Thanks again for your time, Robert. And find more of my interviews right here or at tonyahall.net. Thanks for watching.